Oh, Tamalatashi delay, any Shopat delay. Everyone, good morning, everyone. Very happy to see you. I hope you're doing well, and especially you can see the Pema Tsuchen, I think, not Pema Tsomo from South India. Pema Tsomo, she's there?
Yes, she's there.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, yeah, that's all. Okay. That's all. That ring to Yancher, Yami Tapurum Bochinze Yajuk, any Lamchor Chintuake, Honey, any Rimpeji de Tatuba, Samba, Gomba, Siate, Nyamdet in the Sin and Rojoli, that in the Chisin and Rohuri, the Lady Zane, Be Masikawa Zambo, Aranka winning by Nate, Be Masikawa Zambo Jilang Shikiyu, and it's Chinambiate, 19 Uncle you reading the only Tamala Cutting Che, Be Gawa Shons.
So we'll continue today with our teaching about the precious garland of the supreme path composed by the incomparable Gampopa in our process of listening, contemplating, and meditating on these teachings together. I think I feel very fortunate myself to be doing this, and you likewise.
Tusum sanje tam je je ngowo yere dan je ngoro jam tsu chab da ka den som ba me be pan go je la ma tam be shab je de ma me ba la go be rab de ke be san sa shin jab sen jo je sen je la paran je de so nam da tsu tum za me sa je la den zin ba me er long ke ben je shiram ye de na we ju gon sa ra tum jo dong gon de be ge le on zo je jin bo zu de ni me de ze ne mo lan jin bo nga bya da ba ka dang ga ji de sen me do tum ba tu je jin lang ge sa Nindop Jimbe Paya Lima de Lord Jimbe Jugan de Nize, Draba Jimbe Jimber Jiang de Loza Jimbe shall also wind, Ninde Jimbe Kudazineji, Kabye Jimbe Lamani Baranze, Jimbe Jimbe Drebe Janzinzi, Reba Jimbe shall also wind, Tiba Jimbe Enjoyons, Saja Jimbe Tobang, the Tele Jimbon Kadanyam Barada, Ningom Jimbe shall also wind. Shirjan Kalanjirab Jinkorojen, Zebe Donder Zelina Bo, Jarvetin Bakune Sanzeba, Kajurumbo Chilangusa. Tony Ninja, Sundan Jubalan, Jijas and Zegan Jindin Dungo, Chiches and Zegan Jidasana Bimotin Zin Jamzola, Soran de Soda Jusinjalo, Badin Zavala Marumboji, Dakajivar Bemedin Yola. Jimbe Gone Jizonde, Gason Dojang Zada, so Yonde Sanje Gondanyam Naya, Garden Sanje Gome Labangon, Zavala Meshavla Soan, Dason Dovolona Jus. Kada Sobje Dongo Jedina, the Shelomara Jerbagan Sada, I attended in Beju and Jambeje, Simbrand Badam Jende. Namaya Damba Sayaki Dan Ladan Binge Adum Dada Meki Namda Doa Gunje Dake Jatamba Tamjeki de Dake Chuti Ando Majun Roa Namkan Tada Nyambe Simchin Tamji, Sije Donhan Tada Ledade, Namdur Tinja Deva, Lana Meba, Yanda Bazo Basanje Gombarumboji, Nijine Jantobrasa. Tade Chidu, and it ambitious Amondini, Sujin to Sine, Nyamsan Lambar Gio, Nyambagone, Sinsar.
O benevolent root guru, who is in essence all Buddhas of the past, present, and future, with great devotion I prostrate to you and go for refuge to you with my body, speech, and mind. Please grant your blessings to be cared for by you inseparably in this lifetime and all of my future lives. Clean ground of pure ethical discipline, beautified by mountains of unfathomable samadhi, illuminating all things with wisdom light of the sun and moon, Supreme Buddha who accomplishes the welfare of all, please bestow virtue and goodness. Your mandala expanding throughout space in knowledge of all things, beautiful thousand-fold light striking the lands of trainees, fully illuminating all of Buddha's teachings in their entirety. With devotion I prostrate to the great jewel of the Kagyu. O glorious and precious root guru, please take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me in your great kindness. Please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind, equal to all Buddhas in qualities of realization, yet surpassing all Buddhas in kindness to me. I pray at the feet of my root guru. O protector, please turn the minds of myself and all beings towards the Dharma. All you who have become disciples of the Sugatas, those gone to bliss throughout the billions of worlds of the 10 directions, all of you who wish to hear the Dharma raining down here and now, may you come here. Namo, in languages of devas, nagas, and yakshas, languages of kumbhandas and human beings, in the sounds of whatever beings exist, in every language I shall teach the Dharma. Please listen well with the motivation of bodhicitta, thinking all mother ascension beings equal to the extent of space must by all means attain unexcelled eternal bliss of perfect, complete Buddhahood. To accomplish this, I shall listen carefully without distraction to the Mahayana teachings being given here and put them into practice.
Lasso. Mambushu Magwashi. Any Tangujuk Chudela, any Lamchorin Chintua, Hajang Za Chimbo, Hajang Gay Chimbo, Yabojing around to some Tawaina, Chun de Chibuka Tony, any some not down the Tony, Chi Simle Juchi Dangne, the Dawa de Simle Yan in Yamarilla, the Nichi some not down the Vaina, Sanji Compang Tobala Lam Delemato, Magawachi, Chasang and Chang de Waji, or the Nichi Chad in the Hosi.
So no need to say much, of this teaching, this scripture that we are studying is so precious. It's one that if we were to spend our lives contemplating it, meditating on it, transforming our minds through its practice, that we would really need nothing else, nothing more for the attainment of full enlightenment.
Tending Zani, Tangujuk Chudela, Tendichi Bainaya, and Mundok Chudela Nabja Judunge, and the Kunong the Hajake Chimbochiris, Kunong Juate, Kunong Siate, Rang Tingni Dambo, Nimjon Namdaji, Nimjon Namdati Chiv Julatine, and the Yinkatingla, and the Sabata Ninji, and the Sambaka Ninji the Julatine, and the Sancho Sentia. At the Dishin Rogodoa, the day to Tani Rantingla. Any Nimjon Namdaji Mewa in a Yindan and Hinjia Mewa. Somebody Hinji Mewa, somebody Hinji Machiva ina, any Sancho Sim Mewa. Sancho Sim Mena, and a Tony Toba Mewa. Or the name to Zani, the rebate in the Korang, Jumdek Chud. Tambo Ranjulani, Nimjon Namdati Gelatine, any somebody Hinji, Driver. Somebody Hinji Gelatine, any Sancho Sim Driver. Any Sancho sent the Tondanka Sancho sent that Gunzo Sancho sent ye the Tani, the Danka Sancho sent any Tony Tawala Chadi or the Nichiridia.
And as important as this main subject is, even though it is very important, the preliminary practice with which we approach it is even more important. And so what this means is to really develop and transform our own mind in the aspect of renunciation, first of all, where we have a strong realization of the drawbacks of samsara, that we want to become free of samsara. So to get that very much internally within ourselves, and then once we have that, then we can really develop full compassion and love for other sentient beings. And then on that basis, we can develop bodhicitta, seeking enlightenment for their sake. And with that basis, then it's possible for us to realize shunyata and selflessness, emptiness. So otherwise, without developing true renunciation of samsara within ourselves, true wish for liberation, there's no way that we could really develop true love and compassion for others. And then we would not be able to develop bodhicitta. And as bodhicitta exists in two forms, its relative and ultimate forms, we would then not be able to realize that ultimate form of bodhicitta, which is the realization of selflessness. So this is the way to prepare ourselves with the preliminary practice. To first of all develop the renunciation within ourselves, from there the great compassion for others, and from there then bodhicitta, from which we then can realize selflessness.
Laso, that nga chutun dumba de la cha de yori, chutun dumba de la, ani chuchin re se drain to zani, chuchin dumba de la, ani nyamsa lang chu se a de la cha de.
In this seventh session of our teaching, we've reached now the seventh set of 10 things. In this case, the 10 things are the 10 things to be practiced.
Oh, that's de la. Oh, just lama so, oh, you married. Oh, sometimes I get over it. Oh, yeah, that day, that chuchi dumba de la, sugar sugar, machuchi churm, joba chuji yams long. And a higher on the mayor de Jimmewa, Chami the yams long. Lama tambatin and Ajar on the Kashi yams long. To some la, Lord Young, Kashi Mezawa, Shibat and hold the yams long. Papa Julius Chan, Chawar Tanyos and Mayawa, Matangwal, you meet the Yams Lang. Yamli Julian, Chosen Denzula Majopa Yams Lang. Kelanshi, Tamjin, Gosom Pamila Matangwa, Laba Sum Yams Lang. Sanchon Cho the same gene. Randu Meziba gives a Yindo the Yams Lang. Not a Gorishun, the Gosom Tamar the Mayaba, Jinkorsum the Yams Lang. Jumbo to do me sometime ago, she need Dumber from the cut up Yams Lang, and then Yams Lang what you know.
These are the 10 things to be practiced. Having entered the gate of Dharma, do not enter the herd-like concerns of people. Practice in accordance with Dharma. Having abandoned your birthplace, do not establish yourself in human lands. Practice without attachment. Relying upon a holy guru, abandon arrogance. Practice in accordance with his or her instructions. Having trained your mind through hearing and reflection, do not just teach. Practice what you have learned. When realization has arisen in you, do not be satisfied with it. Practice without distraction. When practice has arisen within you, do not enter into the distractions of community. Practice. Having promised and committed yourself, do not be careless with your 3 gates. Practice the 3 trainings. Having generated the mind of supreme awakening, do not accomplish benefit for yourself. Perform all practice for the benefit of others. Having entered the gate of mantra, Do not leave your three gates in the ordinary state. Practice cultivating them as the three mandalas. While young, do not travel meaninglessly. Practice austerities in the presence of a holy teacher. Those are the 10 things to be practiced.
라소 따치란족의 인지치란족으로 왔는데 소범 메트족의 네 거대 싸움었던 거 같지라 내 별라 총순저 까담밖에 개비신이지 그 복은 호역지 그 뭐라 아니 마뚜네 송야야지게 추임받을 때 싸움은 코시고래 이 시당 못대 싸움은 코네 야보도.
So you who are Westerners reading this in English should keep in mind that this is a teaching that was being directed to Tibetans in Tibet, in that environment and culture.
라소 다 되게 담보되게 아니 추거르쇼네 뭐추지처럼 먼저 봐 추지냐면서 랑세야 되게 아니 운에 따네 로추서 손의 추거를 쇼 살리 값스 아니 추람도 야한 로고리 마도 아니 체도를 추세 체메를 득바세와 나지 코와라 만차바 나지 시롱거 말이 신인거 말이 시작 다 된때 땡기 요리 디나니.
So in this first line, having entered the gate of Dharma, do not enter the herd-like concerns of people. Practice in accordance with Dharma. This is an admonition for us to practice Dharma steadily throughout our whole lives. You know, not to be enthusiastic about it in the early part of our life and then slack off and be involved in a lot of harmful, destructive actions in the latter part of our life.
근데 인도자니 추고를 쇼는 무추지처럼 먼저 빠르송도와 무추지처럼 먼저 빠서야 되게 네나니 무추서야 되게 직딩 호브소라 라추서야 되게 아니 담도 추고 소라 인도자니 담보 라추를 쇼는데 유마 아니 무추라 마한도는 지초고 투라 다 가르쳐 그지 득버소라 마용네 무추지처럼 용이가 말이지 내가 고고리.
The terms in Tibetan are divine Dharma and human Dharma, where human Dharma is referring to worldly attitudes that are not the spiritual attitudes of Dharma. So it's saying, you know, to keep our minds in the aspect of the divine Dharma, the teachings of Buddha, not to become prey in the latter part of our life to the concerns of ordinary human beings, what they would consider their Dharma.
아니 가장해 줄 이메일 땅이야 된 요소에 요차려와
Lai,
라소 다디 측강 담보디라 랭디라 아니 까담버 개비신이 나베 아니 로폭 출라데 슈폭 장라데 장폭 셔라데 시폭 아니 장폭 감볼라데 스톡동라데 어떤데 지요리 데 마질라나.
So this first line relates to what are called the 4 entrustments of the Kadampas, which are ultimately to entrust your mind to Dharma, to entrust your Dharma to life as a beggar, entrust your life as a beggar to death, and to entrust your death to an empty cave.
I think some mala any the opposite. I go pe dokso chadi the sang ngaran dram yiki chachi mala lopok any khorwalate rawa lopok khorwalate any khorwapok de any dungalate dungarte shawalate shisa de any tape tende ta choncherta laso but the dokjak nanani ta the sinishia ta tende ring do akora pok de sa de noren du sani ta tena de sang de dokso paji chadi yurida.
So people in the 21st century, for the most part, do the opposite of this. We entrust our mind to the samsara, and then our samsaric life to suffering, and then that suffering life to death, and death to big city or whatever, happens. So the mode of procedure of beings in 21st century pretty much goes opposite to this.
The danger chane Gypsum Milarepa ke Kora Retula Tambo, Pelucapson, Molam Tambo Tela, Kora Retuning Gortambo, Tiatel and Gortambo, Molam Tambo Tela. Nga Nana, Trememi Patan, Shenang Memi Para, Retun Durin Chenuna, Namjo Samba Zobai. Gola Meji Mi Batang, Nangla Traji Mi Para, Retun Durin Chenuna, Namjo Samba Zobai. Garsong Tera Mi Batang, Dersong Treme Mi Para, Retun Durin Chenuna, Namjo Samba Zobai. Roror Bui Sawatang, Zaji Dangbin Jibara, Retun Durin Chenuna, Namjo Samba Zobai. A Molam Tendichita, Tambo, Kora Rango the Pend. All the dishes that it's Sama Jun Matamaya, Kashiti Jun and the Samala.
And he robes and Dunda de Garding Nana.
Nana Trememi Patang, Shenang Mummi Para, Nan Nawaina, Shuran de way in Bekandos in the Kitchen Trememi Patang. Shewaina, Mungogra, Ketan and Rata, Mambo Yon, the city, or the Lichimeva, and in art and this is a trinder, Naran Chipin Cheswaina, and in Arcate Sampazoins, the Alagoyus.
So we can see this in the very first spiritual song that Milarepa sang, to the effect of, if I get sick in a cave and there's no one to wail and mourn for me, my wishes will be fulfilled. If I die, with no one around me weeping, and in this empty cave, then my wishes will be fulfilled. So that was indicative of his intentions being along these lines from the very start of his practice.
That's all. That I'm what it is. I knew about the any fire pang, murder, German was. Fire pang, murder, German was, Chami the Yamsalons. That did a Gantini Pachichi Wandachiria, that fire pang sally cups, and this was the leg ups any male yanja genting in security. That penanga Lamata Wandajina, fire pang yali Kicharawa, Pena. Chimpang second, Tahate Legati Tambon Chimpaya in Sonyuri. Chimna, Chapachi, the sun and chim the pang, the sun and chimney, chimney bar up the Sosagadoa. Chimme, the sun, chimpangne, and the Gumbalan Rocoris. Atin sang Tate Yantis in Drigio Mari, Takaisina, Chimpang Talijilan, Chimley, Lasati Gumbatinanani, Zin Yongsen, and Gumbatel and Chimbodachi. The day the Zane, Dandinania, Fire Pang, Mayor the Jim and they was, Mayor Sina, Chimney, but such a Jimbajilla son, Chimpang had the young Teleyan Chim zone, the Drama Imba. Chimpang Sunny zone, any chimney bar up the zone, Rani cheaper, and it can be chewed all on the hotel. Or the Nangori is somebody. Fire Pang, Mayor the Jim and they were charming the Yasala.
Second line says, having abandoned your birthplace, do not establish yourself in human lands, practice without attachment. So this is along the same lines of what we were talking about. And in particular, the ordination that a monk or nun receives is going from having a home to homelessness. It's known as going to the homeless life, where one has abandoned one's birthplace, one's given up one's home to go into a homeless existence in which one is by oneself, practicing the Dharma. These days, it seems the attitude tends to be a bit different. When a monk takes ordination and leaves their home, they go into this monastery which they think of as like a bigger home, a nicer home. And that's not to be the idea. So when it's saying, do not establish yourself in human lands, it doesn't mean, go from your homeless state and establish another home somewhere else, in the realms, in the lands of human beings, but rather, to practice without attachment, by yourself, without that attachment to your homeland and home, birthplace, and to practice Dharma on your own in this state that is comparable to a homeless state.
Sumbadek, Lama Tambatine, Najar Pande, Kajinams, Langs. Tadege Narang to Chug, Gubang Mama de Kareli Sidutane, Chusia de Gubang Mama de Rangi Ju Mund Jordelik, Mundula Yuba, Numu Budrabanani, the Chachidan the Moglas of Batokson Paya. All you delik Shizudra, the Pachata Chiba Paya. The Drabani the Paya, Dumi Pachada Chiba, Zen Juzila, and the Tampa choose. Choose the Koran main layang, Jujitawatila Gogo Yorwa. The Din Dutane, Lama Tambala Tinga, the Chudupache the Tinga Yori, Lama Tinga Tinga, Tuba Cher Song, the Tuba Chiva Deke, any Majar Cher Songaina, Chude. Takarse chu lobanda jele chane mi tukle jilwa la du de baba se na yi yogo yori isi. Oh yeah.
So relying upon a holy guru, abandon arrogance, practice in accordance with his or her instructions. So, the reason that we practice the Dharma, which has this sense of transformation of the mind, is to abandon the two obscurations, to abandon the deluded obscurations of anger, greed, attachment, ignorance, confusion, and then also to abandon the obstacles to omniscience, the obstacles to all-knowing. And so if on the contrary, our relying upon a guru and gaining knowledge from them causes the opposite of this, for these delusions such as pride, to increase in our mind, then it means that the Dharma that we've been practicing, learning from the guru, is really being misused and desecrated, like bringing a deity down to the level of a demon. So in practicing with the guru, we need to make sure that it goes in accordance with instructions, his or her instructions, which is to alleviate, diminish, and eventually rid ourselves of these deluded, afflicted states of mind.
Chuzang Kita Masheva, Chumayimba Chiki, Pachaki, Chuba Mayimba Machiki Jula, Najayo Inayang, Maranzo Pata and Duzani, Kita Shietang, Koran Namjotundang, Lasopan any, Matin Toma Deva. The Jinge and Koranga Matindalani, Chim Zasanga in Chamton Medeva, Ron Chimzilla in Chamton Medeva. All the Digiridia.
So pride and arrogance is one of the worst of all of the delusions. It really, ruins our spiritual practice, creates suffering for us in this life, and suffering for us in future lives. Even apart from a spiritual context, just in ordinary life, when somebody has a prideful attitude, we can kind of see it in their actions, their way of walking and talking, and even then it creates discord and lack of harmony in their relations with their family and acquaintances.
Any Jibadege, to some Lord Jangne, Kashim Zawa, Shibatun Hodun Yams Lungs. 다 대양 들어가랑리 다 공도 시반난시 양 투삼세야데 가리치드 투바시기리 가리치드 삼바시기리 가리치드 곰시기리시데 투바데 삼바치드 삼바데 곰시드 곰데 에네 뉴몽게 님복치드 데니인도 자네 투상로 로카장와데 따대양 가시질라양 뭐체 코랑을 투삼세 개바차 아니 카데오차네 아니 딱와 레키라 카슬라콘네 깨제 희엔 개완다 지당 아니 개왕 리시완다 지금 맹다 질레 마도 아니 바다 공도 희바나 이 투바데 강기치도 이바다 삼베치도 이바 삼바데 곰데 아니 랑안 준데지 님볼로 로 마타바 어떤데 용거 요와 이드 짜네 대송이 신디나니
Having trained your mind through hearing and reflection, do not just teach, practice what you have learned. So this is getting to the same point again, that through we study, we learn the Dharma, we develop ourselves in the Dharma through the process of hearing and reflection and meditation. And then, so what we hear is meant to be thought about, what we think about is meant to be meditated upon, and then that meditation is for the purpose of diminishing and eliminating the afflictions of the mind. If, on the other hand, someone does a lot of listening and thinking and then just teaches, all of their energy is directed towards, expressing those teachings in words outwardly. If they don't, turn it inwards and apply those teachings within their own mind to diminish the delusions, then it's the same problem as before, of not really having applied teachings for their true purpose.
어디니 인데다니 대 냠슬린 거리 다디 유어드니 nga바데 또바 줄이샤네 차워 따뇨 섬다와 이미냐 살아시야데케 따치땅 강드니 말아레 베진데 당보테게 라티네 니바데를 라말라티 아니 투상 검성 거 또바 줄이지야 또바 줄이지 자데 주바데게 아니 냠니시야 라서 바르 베진데 찔찔은 드라이지지 담보티 니발은 드라이지 니바데 숨발은 드라이지 주탄 데베쳐도 파제 덴데 치시 시에나요 마초와면도 와 야보지 때용나.
So if we look at this, when realization has arisen in you, do not be satisfied with it, practice without distraction. You can see how each of these points builds on the last one, that abandoning once entering the gate of Dharma and not being prey to mundane concerns, and then abandoning one's birthplace, practicing without attachment, and then in that practice to abandon arrogance and rely upon the guru, and then how to practice through applying your study and meditation, so that it actually, so you can see how each of these, if you look at it, each one is like a result of the previous one. It's a step, it's a further step in a progression. So I think you can pretty much look at these sets of 10 in that way.
다데인디자네 똑바 줄에 샤네. 단데나니 백개침보리. 똑바 줄에 샤야데 하작개침보리. 당내때 롬 mambo질은 배종세. 말아 로마 뉴뇽레 마도 요마리. 근데 야보지 삼로 타와이나 캘리포니아라. 다다 California ka me koranso ari ka mredili nyonyom shi yo mare nga ka samde chi nga la chi tang topa se yo mare te nga chaw la me nga la ngote ya li topa de me chi la ti sa chi ngo chin thu na samba chi ke thap shi mang bo se samlo tagarang la tang nga chi tang chi chu shi ya gu ba ngo ma de te ri da ma chu ka ju ba ke lama te ke thu ju ko topa yon di da lo ma la ti sa ngon thu ya de 충고마데 대티니 뭐라요리다. 진바질치 사자 빼고시 당당 덴박 양 당도 당당 로모 당당당 아니 라르트 당당 Aling da tomar per tang la so ba de ko de chu mari de le tu na chu mari chu yang ta ba de lama de ke tu ju la yu de le tok bu yun din de lama la ti sa chi dang bo ko ba tho ni ha ko ani nyo wa ka tho ni tok ba ju le chi ani ji ba che ma trim ne ale tang ne te ri ya sa ba chi ke gom song ko tok ba chi ju le chi ya chi ke tablam te ka ju pa le yu ri ani de ta ne nge lo mang bo chi la de sam lo tang yin de ji ni nge ke ke dang ge yu ma ri ni ne lo ma tham chi ngu ne zun ru dang ta ka re se ge chi den de dang me ba dang a te ke chi bo kan de yin ba chi da ha ma wa de de chi ke de nga pi chu nga rang ka sam ba nam ji so ma song si de de ta ne tok pa ju le shan ne se ya de tok pa ju le chi se ya de ta pa ma si ke chi bo da pe ke chi bo di nge de xie de sang.
When realization has arisen in you, do not be satisfied with it. Practice without distraction. So this first phrase, when realization has arisen in you, this is what all of our tradition of the Kagyu and my practice and career has been about. All of it has been about trying to facilitate the realizations arising in people. Now, myself, I don't have great realizations, but my root guru had tremendous realization, and it has been what I've tried to do for many years. And this is what we do in our tradition. The main thing we do in our tradition is try to give a taste of what that realization arising in your mind is like, and to have that realization arise in your mind. And this is what I've been concerned with, for many years, and have largely been dissatisfied, not content with that feeling, insufficient in my own ways of describing it, and then students having a lack of perseverance, seriousness to be able to have these kinds of realizations, because other things like, the guru teaching about how to say prayers, how to chant, how to make mudras, how to play the thigh bone trumpet, or the long horns, or the kungling oboes, and so on. This is not, the main point of what the guru is for, is to enable us to have these realizations arise within us. So this is what we have in our Kagyu tradition, is this lineage of the guru igniting within the students taste of what that realization is in their own mind.
Tende chane chiksum ne de nani te song yori chiksum ko ne de nani ngo ran tho de te ba da wa gong go na to ni gong go na tang bu ngon che go si pe na da de jin ping go na ben ka wa le do tang bu me ke ya bo ji man thong na da ka de sin ping go da pe ti na yin ong ba ni se ya de gong go yi na yang ma na churang tu sang ko tho ni ta ja ji ne churang ran to ko tho ni tu sang ko tho ni ha ko wa ji 하란 지요리 제베 제바가 돈이 투삼타 망보시네 디갑스 추랑 란도고 돈이 하고와 되지 요리 대 제바가 돈이 당가서 냐미 다보 가지고 록서다 니마다 가지고 술 록서라 아니 라마 체다 딤바지 근데 아니 로마가 무그시네 소와담네 아니 라마데게 코란가 라마가 잡을라메 주발라마 라서바 마토파 ngote enjute ani loma la ani chulu banayi and this in the dawa jigila mind transformations kasakota then this in rosa jiyurisi and the indu chane garab dorji ke chusum nedum nana ngoran tho de teba ha ji tho de jeba deng tor tho de jawa si de sum song do wa ta pe ke chim bore de ko de ha ko ya de Ngora to the day Matavaina, Moji Mantuaina, Gon Candis Jago, you mean. Gon the temple you Marta Kantaja. All the day in the Tani, one tree at the package, but one two Tadu, any Ngora to the deba, touch a tot juba, said, and it ought that Taran Rija. Telematon was Hamando Sambaka touch to the chi. And it ding or to the chassis, and it didn't talk but ding the Dimbajin, Nishin. And it did talk Tony, Rembaged. At the Atankati Paranga de Parasanga body, son and body sapala, Yandro Sage, ding or to the Jawasia, top ding the Dimbachi. What in the Chichakari is. What in the region.
In the 3 lines that strike the point, Venerable Khenpo makes a threefold outline of, first of all, being introduced to one's own true nature, and secondly, becoming absolutely certain of that, and then thirdly, developing more and more confidence in it. So if we're to realize, if we're to understand emptiness, there are basically 2 ways of going about it. One way is through analysis, whereby we have to bring our study and analytical investigation to a full culmination, where just through our own power of reasoning and investigation, we get this insight into the ultimate nature of things. And on the other hand, in our Kagyu tradition especially, we have a different approach in which the realization that the master has, which has been passed down from one master to another for the generations, then transmits that realization of what they have received from their gurus and their lineage to the disciple. And in this way, just like pouring the content of one vessel into another, then the disciple receives it that way, and then becomes very.
Yeah, that's it. Churang Kate, Jablotini Koyabuji Kumogol Charles of the Chukarche.
Not check.
Oh, that also Tasso.
Some chick joined the then additional Nugi or like not some low ton between the case of Machina.
Anything that Dodo shit didn't get a shame, but that the Tombo Tawa Mantua in a Gon Karjaka Hako, Pena, Dumping go and Benton is.
And so, this is so important to have this understanding, to be introduced to one's true nature, because otherwise, what do you meditate upon? It's like shooting an arrow into the dark without having any sense of where the target is. So this being introduced to that true nature of ourselves is the setting up of the target by which we then know what we're meditating on. And from there, then we can proceed through gradually developing it more and more, as is represented in the mantra of the Heart Sutra, Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisattva.
Yeah, Topajulation is that they Tupataki Yamni Julachin, Chosen, Denzelam, and Jopan Yams lungs. That Topajulachi, and in Yamni Julachi at the city Chiquari. Tambongaba de Topajulachi, Yumadaki Yamni Julachia, Topa the Yams Langne, Topangon Troyate, Yamlin Jane, any Rembeji the Yamsalian Segora, the Nidutane, and the Tupataki Yamni Julachines, Yamni Apochi Sijim capsules. Nyamni Yapo, Sijim Caps. And the Parchin Ramanda Yongori. Pena, Shukate Sabgona, this Saja de la Duke Parche use on Yori. when I was so choose on the region I appreciate to dance something. Get something like that, but choose up the subsequent or the party, the region and you. Sometimes the party you go to war, or choose in or betting I hit the name to the Dina, then Yamni, what you daily capsule, and in some sanani, the Dharma the party younger, say party younger, Nanga Namtoka party younger. Someone any chick last about Malam down, any Dharma that do it at the soka, any that's lot at the Zuna, any long loss of Patine, long tin lopa loss of Pasine, young party unit in the Yuri. The name that's an in Yami Julie Chili Capsu, Yabush City Capsu, party younger Yuris. The caps any talk and Dunzula Majopasi, Mambo, De Yasa, Mambo, Tonchetta, the Decanal, Madeva Chine, and it's also cheaper, Nala, and it is in Yamnisi, somebody.
In the next line, having when practice has arisen within you, do not enter into the distractions of communities. Practice. So here again, we see that progression. In the previous line, we saw the practice without distraction. And in this line, we say, when practice has arisen within you. And so in the case of the center here, we can see this kind of situation. Sometimes I feel that way, that even though this is a Dharma practice, a Dharma center, I can practice, it is, in a community. And sometimes there's, obstacles that arise, from being in a community like this. Sometimes it seems like it attracts, Mara, or there's more distractions from and obstacles from being in the community like this. So this is the advice that once you have practice, you are practicing with this kinds of realization, then to practice in isolation, to not go into communities where there can be more obstacles, but to practice in isolation.
Choose sub na do sub say the Karjogor Mata Joda.
Oh, so what is said is that the deeper the practice becomes, the deeper the obstacles become.
Mm-hmm.
As one progresses in practice, there could be more and more serious obstacles that arise in response.
That's true. Trenchu Yapochi Ngal Jupayo, Tren Dorji Marda Yang.
The Rinpoche can be top dealer Notre May, can send a ngadi, eh, Yabo Gisha.
Yeah. That's I tell Jupala Shekamodo, Kartanki Chora Dorji Sheka you are.
Indicate younger, then can Yapo Hago to
Oh, yeah. Tako Yala Tamanga told Turkey so that
not Nagio May,
any Jiba de Mata Dumba de K Lanchi Tamkin, Gosum Tamala, Gosum Pamila Matangwa, Gosum Pamila Matangwa, Labasum Yamsalangs. A Lamendune K Lang Tamje, I can't say you know, Sosu. Sotarga Domba, Sansenga Domba, Sanhaka Domba, Tangachi Domba Mambo Sugar Yura, Killing Yuri, Tam Jaka Yura, Wang Mambo Sugar Yura. Or that the Karichi, the Shiki Yuri Siditane, Tambe Chu, Churanga Jula, Tambe Chu, the Nuba Compelli Young Chida, Nuba Tuchina Young Chida, and it is Shiki Yura, Domba some the Sugar Yura. And the Domba some Shutari Jila, Churanga, Tambe Chu, the Noban Tuchina, Masoni Tabla, any Dombaling garden and Dharma and Memton sort and this one in the Yapomaris. The name to Tanitela, Lunga Yisum, Gosum Seattle, Lunga Yisum. They Tamer Batanchola Mijane, and it Lava Sunkatoni, Pamila Mijanes, Pamila Mijane, Naming Las of Balamatane, and it Lapsunkatoni Yamsalangori is somebody. Lava Sum Seate, a cartang naturally teletanga you are, Lava Trum Jalaba. Laba Tingi Laba, Laba Shirab Jalaba. Ambote Joda.
Having promised and committed yourself, do not be careless with your 3 gates. Practice the 3 trainings. So when we take commitments from a master, it can be in the form of the 3 vows, the Pradamoksha vows, the vows of individual liberation, the vows of Bodhisattva, and the tantric vows. And the idea of taking these vows is to gradually develop ourselves and develop more power in our practice. And if, on the other hand, we're careless about these vows that we've taken with our 3 gates, that means our body, speech, and mind, then the entire point of those commitments will be lost and become detrimental in breaking them. And so the advice is to not be slack, but to, with perseverance, practice the 3 trainings. So the 3 trainings referred to here are the training in higher ethical discipline, higher concentration, and higher wisdom.
다되게 라바스인데 노당들이 차대로 라바스름지 라바데 빼나 메토 그 등라라 있지요나 메토 그 등라데 송조시제가 라완다데 아니 라바스름지 라바시 메토데 나는 유지 메토 까르세르 마르자 메토 나바나 소바데 라바 등이지 라바시 메토데란 제브 미네 제브 빼 야보 미네 근데지 유야데 아니 라바시랍데 라바시 다 라바스름데 빼 너르지 레 라오시 잡나 근데지리샤.
A simple metaphor for these 3 trainings is that if you had a garden, the training in higher morality, ethical discipline would be like the fence around that garden that protects it. The training in samadhi or concentration, meditative absorption, is like those flowers that are the plants that are inside the fence. They're red, yellow, white, different colored flowers. And then the training in higher wisdom is like the final fruit that is born by those plants. Is a simple explanation of that.
That's all. I think it's it. Any jiba de ke sanchum cho the same jine random misi but gypsy hindon the nyamse langs. That's simji ke domba shuya de simji tamje ke dende chi de nga chi domba shu ke yorwa. Oh tindi indi sanchum cho the same jine hindon misi but gypsy hindon the nyamse langs.
Having generated the mind of supreme awakening, do not accomplish benefit for yourself, perform all practice for the benefit of others. So this is the motivation behind bodhicitta, to work for the sake of others and not just oneself.
Any gubade nga je gorishone gosum tamad majaba jinkorsum the nyamsa langs. Saha je golisho chali jila, any saha je golishuyate, karerishina. Any hammer can nine jamate hammer around 9 de pajayala somehow to give out in the chiri. The name did any somehow you go to shoot sade hammer the majawa siate around to go some tamar or tatang around to the go some siateke lunga isum the go some day lude zobo ngade keja any same the tatan namtote rapate. Yinsa bachitala. Hag kapsa anything jurgu yoris. Hamaka nani the dawne, any jugutini, jinkorsum the nyamsa langsondoa. They think like Kataya actually imertanyo, jinkorsum de. Jinkorsum the careri sidu, tapugatoni, jinkorsum ne, luji jinkor, bangi jinkor, sanchip sen jinkors. Thundertan jimbachilla sanghaka kapsa, luji jinkor. Banga jinkhor, sanchip senji jinkhor. Yangna kandi nani suba tadesena, yami tapu. Yangna lulai jinkhor, nga jinkhor, simting in jinkhor. Jinkhor and tang number nidwa, or the chadja.
Having entered the gate of mantra, do not leave your three gates in the ordinary state. Practice cultivating them as the three mandalas. So when we speak of our body, speech, and mind being in the ordinary state, it means our normal, ordinary way of perceiving our body, speech, and mind as this ordinary body, our ordinary speech, and then the ordinary thoughts that we have going through our mind. To not leave those in that state and to cultivate them as the three mandalas. I've written some notes about what these three mandalas are. In one interpretation, they're the mandala of the body, mandala of the vagina, and mandala of bodhicitta. This is a tantric explanation of these three mandalas. And then alternatively, more directly relating to what Gampopa is speaking of here, is to the body as the mandala of the deity, the speech as the mandala of mantra, and the mind as the mandala of samadhi, of absorbed concentration. So these are the three mandalas.
Yeah, that's it. Any Chubadeke, Yumbutus, to me, sometime ago, she need ambitious around the cut ups in Yamsalang. Study Nedaki Kohnichirantal Shay, but the Karachi, the Songo Yuri, the Gampopa, but so any Labadang as a Kango soda, Uzanga soak, Metaso, Nekol and Royal Pegawachigri, Nekor Chevaina, anything when it on a churis in it. I am Chunchongas and Nekola Mabondono, Gambazuna, a Kango Sony, Gambatan, Moda you marry cut the Tayo marry, the Moda Kawa, Tada Kawa, the Kantang and this in the Tawa Mambo, and Roni, Kale Mambo Yang. Any Lasa Utang Sok Tin, Odala Torse Bakatin, the Sun G, the Sun, any Tate the Tandokari, any day Chiang Tabari, sin any Lasa Tapachin City Shivi, Zeno, and this in the Utang Sol, Nekolan Row. Utang met so young ma comes for any in a gumbatas and year and Nekolan Rolike, Loxo you, the Lochun Jongaps. And indeed, and it won't bochiki, you put this to me, sometime Mokola said, tell a Guba teach the Sungu, that we bala. She need Tambetong, that he comes a Lochun Jonga caps, Churan number Yuri, Churan require boy, Lochun Jongaps, and it should have been twinging Chasangi, Uditane, and it take us Gaza. Takarisa Santa Con, Metetola Matawa Gene, Lama Yanta Bajet San, Lama Tonga Dene, and it should go to some Gene. Lamanduna decoris, that the kitchen boris, what that did in the
And while young, do not travel meaninglessly. Practice austerities in the presence of a holy teacher. So this is relating to something I mentioned that to keep in mind that this is being presented to a Tibetan audience in Tibet. There was and there is this idea that going on pilgrimage is an extremely blessed thing. I did it a lot when I was young, and we didn't have cars or horses to travel on, so we walked with great difficulty, long distances, and then sometimes people would go on pilgrimage from Kham, eastern Tibet, to central Tibet, where they would want to get a glimpse of the Potala.
That you get the Charles on what? Chada Kada, the Jagador.
They would feel that by going to central Tibet and seeing the Potala palace, that they would purify so much negativity, and they would put all this energy into traveling, walking, and sometimes people from central Tibet would go the long distances to eastern Tibet to see the monasteries there. So what Gampopa is saying here is, don't do that. Don't take so much time to go on these long pilgrimages like this. Rather than that, seek out a holy master, receive instructions from them, and practice according to their teachings. That this would be a much better use of your time, when you have the energy to go on long pilgrimages. Well,
Lasso, anytime I tell some yogi, not Ningo Jablola, ya, Chushi Kashichi, any Tahakashi Chushi, the Terrain, Lebija, then the Chidu, and the Terrain I tell some yogi, and then I'll let this to you. And the Terrain to Chutu, Chick Doctor Rima Song. Chutu Chick Doctor, tell some yogi.
So today I'd like to stop here, as I have some other work teaching some monks later this afternoon, and so we'll stop here for today's session.
Any Chiran to Twa, you not train Matawachi, don't have Jimmy Zapping but Electrawat and Jimmy in the Tabinano, Chis train Alekatis to you.
And if you have questions that have arisen from today, please definitely remember them and present them at the next session.
That's all.
Pande tsawe lama rinpoche taki chiworo peme densho la kati chenpe kone jeson kuson tuke ngonchu tse tu so. Omso te ramjan kyamne kyachu chenla tan tenye tende luwa me petu. Kebara chime seye lazo ke sewa ishe chingche tendirepo. Yekun chinle kake kama pe kasu tonga chazo menga. Ome sewe lamda nyamdo ki yunden zeka getere shaktes. Kange sangsam doje rangkam so lekwara tenje longdo tambej. Sheju tu sam gombe dude ye saden gembe chile tachin sho. Pande lame nambara tabala kichi samya lokta mikesh. Chinze lekwara thongwe mugu ki lame chila semla jupa. Kewa kundu yanda lama tang jeme chuke pela longchuche sata lamke yonde rabzo ne pade lame kohanyo to sho.
O glorious and precious root guru, please take seat of lotus at my crown, caring for me in your great kindness. Please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. Om Swasti. May the blessings of infinite seas of our places of refuge, the force of the two truths' infallible interdependence, and especially the hosts of deities of immortal well-being, now rain down the magnificent splendor of their wisdom and power of longevity. The Lord of the dance of all victors' enlightened activity is Karmapa. Your unquenchable thirst for the inner essence of his traditions, doctrines of discourses, tantras, great seal, great perfection, and pith instructions has brought the qualities of signs on the spiritual path, your experience and realization to its flowering. May your life be firm. May the wisdom mysteries of your body, speech, and mind be as perfectly firm as a Vajra's own immutable elements. May your gatherings of disciples who study and practice the sacred teachings of scripture and realization by listening, contemplation, and meditation cover the earth. May your activity reach its ultimate consummation. May I never for an instant develop wrong views of the glorious Guru's life and deeds, but with devotion seeing all they do as excellent, may the Guru's blessings enter my mind. In all lives, may I never be parted from perfect Gurus, enjoy the glory of Dharma, and perfecting qualities of the paths and stages, soon attain the state of the glorious Guru.
Dajin Simjin Damji Loju Sun Dovara Sinji, Labda Sora, Julamda Dovara Sinji, Labda Sora, Lantraba Sevara Sinji, Labda So, Turba Ishis and Chavara Sinji, Labda So. 다소 남제 제단 템바에 제다라산바에 인트바다 내동께서 발레지변소 언니와시와 신지알라드소 내지 민산드베라지제 닌지바다다베르라소 심지메드베네 나고 지린 감순주와 마주지 심진네 바지니 바이뉴드네레 타와르쇼 온도베네 나말레 바다든 요와미 바라쇼 미남도도 딘바다 상하데 준르바다 칸도 숨볼라소 닌지 심탄덴제지 May all beings te karsa konro chaye de
The minds of all myself turn to the Dharma. May the Dharma become the path. May the path be freed of deception. May deception arise as innate wisdom.
Tujiche samba. I can see your cat behind you.
Oh, good boy. That's a good boy. Yeah.
Oh, nice cat. Oh, very sweet. Lasso Tujinang Chama. Thank you so much, everyone. Very, very happy. Thank you. Thank you, Peman Chomo. Peman Chomo, she's from today, South India.
Wow.
Yeah. He's with her father in South India. Oh, the Raja de Pay about a very good connection. Internet pay about what?
La term chanala Wi-Fi to la andi ya wing.
Other pay about all that channel like a doctor like a only pay about show you. This is so child of the Churan
Nanda ram in durum, and the juicy the chegararish.
Ale Lasso any Tuchina Tamakadinchi, any Chinamba Tama. Happy Saturday, happy Sunday, okay? Happy weekend day for everyone.